And if you think that I look like Tebow from iCarly and you say that in the comments, you're racist. So about 2 weeks ago, Euphoria season 3 has finally come to an end, and we got to see the surprising yet tragic wrap up of Euphoria, and we got to see the story being completely finished and wrapped up as we will know it. Very shocked by the way that things went. I was not necessarily expecting it, and I kind of wanted to break it down in a media literary sense because I feel like a lot of people miss like the grand overall scheme of what was going on in the last season of Euphoria. I think the first main theory that I want to focus on, or like, it's not even a theory. This is like my personal belief about the show, from the things that we saw and the things that were displayed to us. I wanted to start just by saying that Rue and Ali are soulmates. I think that we think soulmates and we think romantic connection. We think, a man and a woman who are supposed to be together from the time that they were born and every moment in their life led them to each other. I think that soulmates can be so much more than that. And I think that the juxtaposition yet similarities between Ali and Rue's life is exactly what makes them soulmates. When Ali became Rue's NA sponsor, they formed a relationship that was very much like a father and daughter relationship. And we can see from both of their backstories that Ali was a man, he grew up through the throes of addiction. He got married, he had a wife, he had a child, and he lost all of that due to his addiction. We see him overdose, and we see the main reason why he decided to become sober. We see Ali, after his overdose, loses his daughter, he loses his wife. And, we would assume that the wife left him, took the child, etc., etc. We see from Rue's backstory that pretty much part of the entire reason why Rue does drugs is from the pain of losing her father. We have a girl who does drugs because she's missing a father, and we have a man who quit drugs because drugs made him lose his daughter. Even though Rue started drugs because of her father and Ali stopped doing drugs because of his daughter, they both had the commonality of being addicts and not wanting to be addicts anymore. That drew them closer. That and losing their related counterpart to each other, it drove them further into each other's arms, to be honest. And that, I think, is what made their relationship so much stronger, and it made Ali have so much influence over Rue, and why Ali was one of the few people that Rue actually felt like she could open up to. And as we saw throughout season 3, he was one of the only people that she could open up to without them accusing her of doing drugs again or something like that. Lexi, just because you can't believe it doesn't mean it's drugs, okay? And because Ali was an addict, he understood that. He bridged the intersection that people have between thinking that addicts and people are separate things. People don't see addicts as people. The fentanyl is one of the most dehumanizing trends that I feel like is a great example that like everybody kind of knows about, that shows how society will dehumanize addicts in order to poke fun or lessen the seriousness of addiction, and how like it's not just a personal problem, but a lot of times it's a societal based problem. A lot of people do drugs because of the problems that we face within society. What a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of homeless people do drugs to cope with the elements while being homeless. Ali was like the perfect character to segue us through the transition that we are going through. I feel like the first season of Euphoria, it definitely glorified drug use for a lot of young people. It definitely had a societal impact that was not necessarily the most positive, especially when it came to young people doing drugs. I think that it was important for Sam Levinson to pivot Euphoria in the way that he did in this season. You guys can say the writing is poor, whatever. I think that for Sam Levinson, the point of Euphoria heavily shifted. It went from a series that was just telling the story of a young girl to that last season was 100% an anti-denol ad. It was an anti-denol ad, which I'm not mad about that. This is a public service announcement of sorts. Like I say an ad, but I think an ad boils it down to commercialization. This was a public service announcement about the dangers of a story, and it had dramatics. But I think that what a lot of people did not realize, and what I came to realize towards the end, when I'm sitting back and I'm having a think about what I thought that the last season meant to me. For me, it was a giant public service announcement about the dangers of drug use. and about how even if something seems safe, it can 100% not be safe. I think the social media reaction of people being offended as Sam Levinson wrote Rue passing away from fentanyl overdose. People were very upset about that because of the passing of Angus Cloud, who played Fezco in Euphoria, who was formerly Rue's drug dealer but also her friend. In season 3, he is in prison for, I kind of forgot what Fez was. Oh, they got busted with hella drugs. They busted in his house. They were trying to flush the drugs. Him and the little boy, what's his name? Rice Cake? That's not his name. His name's Ashtray. Him and Ashtray got caught with all them drugs. He went to jail. A lot of people were upset about the fact that when we come to find out Rue died, basically one of the things that pops up, and to me this immediately told me that like something was wrong, because I just knew that it wasn't feasible for them to continue the storyline, and that was kind of my first indication that Rue had passed away. We see her fall asleep at Ali's house, and she wakes up, or Ali wakes up, sees her in the living room, she's eating cereal, and on the news they see that Fez escaped from jail using parkour, and they got this like on videotape, they showed on the news, whatever, and she goes to find Fez. A lot of people were upset about the fact that they allowed Rue to basically visualize a character that was played by a person who actually in real life suffered from an overdose and lost their life from this same substance. I think that was the point. And I think that you guys took it and you got offended, when in reality, this was like, that was one of the most beautiful ways that that entire cast could have attributed him. I honestly did not think that we would wrap around and talk about Angus Cloud. I did not think that we were going to kind of go on this sidebar that we did to really like fully acknowledge like the like miscarriage of justice that happened when it happened with him. I don't think that a lot of the discussion when he had first passed away was, oh, well, didn't he like choose to do the drugs? Showing Rue being poisoned by Alamo essentially is showing how you don't always have a choice. People don't always overdose on fentanyl on purpose. People are not always doing fentanyl to remove Rue from relapsing, but also show that this deadly substance was put inside of a drug that she thought was something else. That was a beautiful storyline to show that it's not always intentional, but it's equally dangerous. And then for them to partner with this new organization called Defent, I did kind of a lot of research on them after this whole thing came out. I kind of hyperfixated on the little device that Ali used to identify what substance was. I was very interested in the device that was used to test the pills that were given to Rue by Alamo, and it had the logo on it. So I Googled it, I found information, and essentially this is an organization called Defent. They have made the first all-in-one fentanyl testing kit. If you guys don't know, fentanyl testing kits typically I've basically seen them in different forms that kind of look like basically different versions of cheap pregnancy tests. You don't know, when you're testing a substance like that, you have to mix it with a liquid in order to put it in the dropper to make it a liquid consistency similar to pee, like with a pregnancy test. This is one of the first companies to ever basically eliminate the problem of having to find a way to dissolve it, way to scoop it, mix it, and dissolve it all in that one tube-shaped kit that we saw Ali use to test the pills. One of the rising costs of death in people from 18 to 45 years old, there being a rise in another leading death cause, and 9 times out of 10 it is an accidental death. That's scary. It is 100% preventable, especially in the cases of people attempting to do other substances. I think in this season we got to see this whole crazy fentanyl related drug race. So we got to see the perspectives of the people who sell it. We got to see the perspectives of the middlemen, like Bishop, like G, like Mitch, like Bruce Jr., who are all working under Alamo and Lori. We see the middleman with people like Rue, but also Rue comes in the intersection where she became a middleman, but she also was one of the bottom men. She was one of the consumers. So we kind of get to see each level, this hierarchy of this trade that is causing the leading cause of accidental deaths in America. I just feel like instead of viewing it like that, a lot of people on social media have decided to view it as a form of disrespect against Angus. I did not see it that way at all, especially considering the way that they very much tributed him with old clips. One of the last things that Rue Bennett saw before she passed away was Fezco. That's really beautiful considering that apparently Angus Cloud and Zendaya had a pretty close relationship. So one of the last things that Angus Cloud likely saw was his life, his family, and the cast of Euphoria, which is beautiful that now when they decide to end the series, one of the last things that the main character seen was him. Y'all don't think that's beautiful? Y'all didn't think that was captivating? Like, y'all couldn't read into that? Y'all weren't smart enough? Like, Y'all mom really didn't make y'all read fiction books when y'all was younger. And it showed you have no understanding of how fictional characters relate to real life and how the people on this cast were very much impacted by that man passing away. And it's very clear by the fact that the writer of the show, they took all that time off and they still didn't forget him. I might just have to leave that there because y'all see I'm over here tearing up and shit and I got on makeup and I'm not fucking with that. But again, R.I.P. to Angus Cloud. If he was here to see it, I think that he would have loved it. I don't think that y'all understand the complexities of addiction. I don't think that you guys understand the complexities of being a human because you essentially think that if a human isn't experiencing the same thing as me, then what they're experiencing can't be real. And that's never been further from the truth. Every single decision that every single person in your lineage has made before you has put you in the position that you're in today. And you are only here because you benefit from that. And you should keep that in mind because if you did not have those people, you might not have grown up in the area that you grew in, and you might have been more accustomed to the type of lifestyle that we saw in Euphoria. When you saw Euphoria, instead of feeling like you had so much to say, you would be sitting on your fucking couch making a podcast crying about it because you can kind of relate to the thoughts, feelings, and personalities of the people involved. Get your media literacy and your empathy up, bitch. I think it just hurt my heart because he was so young and he was so up and coming. And also, I really liked him in Euphoria. I really think, and I think that if Fesco had the opportunity to be in season 3, first of all, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't think that the writing felt so dog shit. I think that the writing felt kind of dog shit. They had that whole cliffhanger with Ashtray. You know, Angus passed away. And it's just like, it's hard to pick up with a lot of the same characters when you can't get those same actors and actresses back. Ashtray had like low-key gotten too old. So just like how I think that there's like a whole soul tie connection between Ali and Rue, I think that there is a lot to be said about the relationship with Cassie and Maddie as well. I've seen a lot of people theorize that this is a sapphic relationship. And I would like to say, though I disagree, happy Pride.
I lie.
Happy Pride to all of my LGBTQ community.
I'm part of the LGBTQ community.
Just know that I am an ally, I am a member, I support you, and you are always safe at the coffee table. However, I do not think that Cassie and Maddie are a sapphic relationship or a WLW. I don't think that y'all should say we shouldn't stand a woman-loving woman relationship that revolves around beefing over a man. I don't think that we should do it. I don't like the prospects of the fact that they kind of like had that whole battle over a name and you guys want them to be together. I think that that's kind of weird. I do think that if we stand this in more of the sense they're childhood friends and they should remain friends, I kind of don't believe in that philosophy either. However, I can kind of get down with it only because of the way that season 3 ended. See, throughout the series, basically the entire storyline, Maddie and Cassie is OnlyFans, building the OnlyFans, trying to get some shit popping, and then Maddie losing her job, this bitch Cassie deleting her OnlyFans because she's an idiot. The whole thing with Nate Jacobs, and they go and they pay millions of dollars to save him the whole time that he's dead. I think at the end, the resolution that we come to with Cassie and Maddie is that like Cassie is going to start this OnlyFans house. Maddie is basically pimping herself out to Alamo Brown to pay back all of this money, but Cassie's still working on the back end to try and get them every week or so. I guess Maddie takes a trip to Alamo Brown, gives him a stack of cash, spreads her nookie. I guess that is periodically how they're settling this debt. After the whole thing with Nate Jacobs, the reason why I kind of shifted my perspective on Maddie and Cassie is because Maddie says, what am I gonna do? And Cassie goes to her side of the table, sits next to her, puts her head down on her and says, we're gonna figure it out. Cassie, I think, finally has had the understanding that, wow, the realest bitch who has always been in my fucking corner is Maddie. Maddie made the mistake of forgiving Cassie like in season 3. She definitely should not have arrived at that pool and decided to forgive Cassie. And I think she only did it because she had dollar signs in her eyes. But then once they were back hanging out, she kind of got into the flow of, I miss my friend. And that's where she got fucked up because now you're turning this from a business relationship you knew is exactly what she came to you for. And now you're getting that emotional attachment back to being her fucking friend. And I just want you to know, Cassie Howard is not really your friend. And I think the only reason Cassie Howard became your friend again is because she lost Nate. It's terrible because Maddie, you deserve more than a friend who literally will sleep with your ex, go as far as marrying him, only comes crawling back to you one to absolve herself of the guilt before getting married, but then gets you involved in $1 million debt for this man only for him to have been dead the whole time. The least Cassie could do would be dedicating her entire life to spreading her nookie on OnlyFans to pay that fucking money back so freaking Maddie can stop being, as she says, a fucking hooker.
No, I'm not a fucking hooker.
But she's not a hooker, according to her. but now she done prostituted herself out for freaking Cassie Howard. It's one thing if you do it for you, yourself, and your needs. You're doing it for a bitch who stole your boyfriend in high school. Let's get fucking real, Maddie fucking Perez. Let's get real. I think that instead of them being soulmates like Ali and Rue, I honestly think they have a soul tie. I think that they have a soul tie in like one of, to be honest, the most negative way possible. Like, when I say soul tie, when I'm talking about Cassie and Maddie, I'm using it as a slur. I'm using it as a slur. And I honestly think if Alamo had not ended up getting killed, then Maddie would have grown to resent Cassie very, very soon. It would not have taken long because we can see the kind of like disgust and disdain that she has for Alamo when she arrives to the house that last episode. We can see after Cassie sends her off, she's like, don't stay up, I'm probably gonna be late. And then she goes, this man started rubbing on her tum-tum, talking about we gonna have 4 cocoa babies running around, we gonna have a white picket fence. Basically, he's gonna give up this whole strip club pimping thing. He's giving up pimping for Maddie Perez. He don't wanna be a pimp no more, he don't wanna be a pimp no more. Maddie is disgusted. She's fucking disgusted with the fact that this man wants to wife her up, basically. She is absolutely taken the fuck aback by this. Luckily, she is saved by our absolute fucking savior, Ali. Because after this whole scene of the rubbing the tum-tum and the 4 cocoa babies, which like, okay. Alexa Demi White, before I say this, hold on. You know you're about to get racist when you Google Alexa Demi race and ethnicity. Her mama Mexican, but her daddy white. So I'm letting this shit rock. Alamo, them babies is not gonna be cocoa. They are going to be mulatto, okay? He low-key fried me. Like, it was giving like real bad fetishization. Ali bust up in this mug. I didn't do the recap. So again, if you didn't watch, this is very limited recapping and more so me just talking about my thoughts, feelings, and opinions. If that's a problem, go watch it. Get HBO. Step your streaming game up, bitch. Like, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. He rubbing on Maddie, talking about she wants her to have his baby.
Marry me. Have my baby.
And Ali busts up in a strip club, a military uniform on. He locked the door behind him on some slick shit. Sawed-off shotgun in hand. And I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. When I saw him sawing off this shotgun, after he was at an NA meeting talking about he's basically about to like quit being a mentor, I thought that man was going to commit harm to himself. I'm not gonna cap. However, he came up in that strip club and he was like, to one of the girls came up to him and it's like, yeah, like, you know, trying to get sexy. He's like, I'm not here for all that. I want to speak to your manager. She goes against G, that's one of Alamo goons, or whatever. Ali like, I will blow your dick off. Don't play with me. Where is Alamo Brown? They talking about who sent you. He said, Rue sent me, bitch. But he didn't say all that because he real calm, he real smooth with it. Like, he was real nonchalant in the military uniform. Like, yeah, I'll blow your dick off right now. Send me Alamo Brown. He basically holds this whole bitch hostage. Like, they start low-key having a shootout in this motherfucker. Alamo comes out. He got fucking Maddie in a full Nelson talking about, yeah, you want some Alamo Brown? Come get some Alamo Brown. First of all, how about you let him come get some Alamo Brown? Because right now you got Maddie in a full fucking Nelson and the only thing he's shooting is Maddie. So you're trying to act all big and bold, but you're using a woman that you just said you wanted to mother your children 5 seconds ago as a human fucking shield. Alamo decides we're going to do this the old Western way. He gets Kitty, one of the strippers, to go get a bottle. He drinks the rest of the contents of the bottle. He gives it back to Kitty and he tells Kitty to roll it off the bar. And when the bottle hits the ground and shatters, they're basically going to draw their weapons and shoot at each other. And whoever dies, dies. He's like, Bishop, give me my pistol. Bishop's like, your pistol, my fine sir. And then Kitty, he's like, Kitty, roll that bitch. Kitty rolls the bitch. Right? It rolls. Rolls off the counter. This nigga, I will go, pew, 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 pew. Click, 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 click. There's no bullets in a fucking gun. The hardest thing that has happened in this whole, because when I tell you that gun came up, I literally was like, oh my God, he gonna kill Rue and he gonna kill Daddy Ali. Jesus fucking Christ. I literally was, no way. I just watched Rue die and I'm about to watch Ali get shot in the face in the same episode, right? Wrong. I was wrong. Click, 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 click. There was nothing. The bottle has hit the ground. Ali looked at your sawed-off shotgun. Ali was like, yeah.
Shoom. Bow, 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 bow. Shot the nigga. Bow, shot his ass. Bow, 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 bow. All the niggas run out the door. They run out the door. This nigga on the floor.
he technically unloaded the clip on his ass because he had like a revolver type joint. He shot G in the dick. That's one bullet. He like shot a couple of like other random ones off. And then he unloaded them last 3 right at Alamo Brown. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I just think it was so beautiful that I think that I would have been a little bit more unsettled with Rue's death if Ali had not avenged her. I think part of the reason why I was able to accept Rue passing away was because, one, I knew it was not her fault. I knew that it was low-key fucking Maddie's fault. And then 2, like, watching somebody who loved her and understood her the most be the one to lose himself. He lost himself and he questioned his morality and he avenged her. You know what I'm saying? And that in a meeting when he was having this whole speech, he was like, I don't know who's good and I don't know who's bad anymore. But I know what's bad, I know what I think is bad, and I know what I think is not bad. And apparently what he thinks is bad is selling drugs to kids. And what he doesn't think is bad is killing men who sell drugs to kids and exploit women. And you know what, Ali? I'm with you on that one. Me personally, I ain't doing no killing. I'm gonna let you slide him now. So now that he has, committed murder, there of course has to be some plan to run away. And after he killed Alamo Brown, it became abundantly clear to me that there was so much more to this plan. And do y'all see me about to cry? Ali had a plan in place. And the plan did not just have to do with avenging Rue, but it also had to do with fulfilling Rue's last wish. In the beginning of this season, when she was doing one of her runs to Mexico and she ends up like crashing the car or something, she basically ends up finding herself on this homestead in Texas with these like super religious people. They're like basically Amish. She really ends up falling in love with the lifestyle that they have out there because she's like, they're happy. You know what I'm saying? They're really happy there. And I think that that is the only place where I will ever be able to be happy. She expresses this to Ali so many times. And throughout the series, like Ali is not dismissive towards her. I would not call what he's doing dismissive, but I would call it like, he's questioning the legitimacy if Rue actually believes this. He's questioning where she's getting this ideology from, but he's also willing to hear her out. And though he may not think it is the smartest idea for her to just go completely shift her life and start living on a homestead in Texas, they gave her the address when she left. So this is now a goal of hers, and it's essentially like the last thing she wants to do after she escapes this whole situation with the DEA. Seeing Ali, after losing himself and losing his religion and losing his morality and losing Rue and losing everything, he went and he basically went where Rue thought that she would find her happiness. And when he goes back, he says that he's Rue's dad, which, of course, you're Rue's dad. Oh, do you see me? And he tells them that Rue's no longer with them. They invite him in, of course. Sweet Amish people. I'm trying to get to like this next theory. Ali stroll around the farm and he comes up to a cow who just had a baby. This brings us back to the beginning of the season. Rue strolls in and the little girl tells her she's supposed to have her calf soon. And she asks Rue if Rue's gonna be there. And Rue says, I might. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's like, I don't know, but I might. And so we see Ali looking at that same cow, feeding her calf. We hear the little girl say, yeah, she had her calf about 3 months ago. And timeline-wise, we can assume from Ali's speech at that NA meeting and just like the way that everything kind of like seemed to have wrapped itself up, it had been a few months since Rue had passed. That 100% just leads me to believe that Ali and Rue are still together because I think that he's going to stay there. I think that he's going to stay at the homestead, and I think that that cow is Rue. And I think that Rue is going to be able to live out her days. I think that Rue is going to be able to live out her days on that farm. I think that she didn't know it when she was there, but I think when she left and she got closer to her death, she felt it and she wanted to go back where she thought was home. And this heavily leans into my personal theory about reincarnation. Like, this is how I kind of think that like reincarnation works for sure. I don't think that we only reincarnate into people. I think that people and animals like share souls at a point. I do think that animals have souls. I do think that when we reincarnate, we basically either reincarnate into an animal of some sort or we reincarnate into another human. Rue had a lot of struggle in her life. I think that she was the kind of person who had like a really rough start to her life. We also see that Rue never stopped wanting to change. Rue never wanted like Rue was never stagnant. She never stopped wanting to like change her life, except for when she was like in the throes of addiction. But once like she got sober, they don't even talk much about her like relapsing in season 3 at all. It was so beautiful to me to see that Rue got another chance to live peaceful life and to live the life that she was like craving at the time of her death. She was craving living, oh God, Euphoria. Rue has a background of childhood like mental illnesses. She had mental illness growing up and stuff like that. And I feel like when you are a neurodivergent child in an environment with parents who maybe don't 100% understand you, I don't think that Leslie understood Rue. I don't think that, and I think that that can be very hard as a parent when your child is not like you. For her to reincarnate into a cow, to reincarnate into a domesticated animal, very well taken care of, had like a mother and a community and like people around them. It was Rue getting a second chance. I'm genuinely so mystified how like people did not think. I don't see how you could possibly leave the end of season 3 of Euphoria and not be emotional and be contemplating like your own morality and be contemplating like your own life. It's just like, I think that people don't think too much. Like they don't think too much anymore, and they're like, oh, pretty colors, and like we got the pretty colors with season 1, but there was a storyline there. There was so much meat in there. Like we watched a young woman, severely traumatized young woman, like grow up, and yet like we did not get her to flesh out to be a complete human, but we got to see that she was capable of it, and that there were sides of her that weren't just all about chasing a high. Like it wasn't just all about drugs for her. Like once she got out of the mindset of needing to cope, like Rue became a blank slate. Like Rue could have been anything. She could have been anybody, and she was so young. And that is like the case for so many people, which you don't realize. Like I've known people who have like passed away from overdose. I think that Rue was a beautiful way of telling us that like you could always be a different person. You could always decide that you want to change your life, and you could put the work into that. But it also reminds us, never know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I also think that like showing her end like that, it showed that like maybe she should have taken the opportunity to run from Ali. Maybe instead of going back for like that one last, I just have to go back to Laurie's one more time and do this for Alamo and then do this, and then the DEA will get them in. There was no way for her to know that that was the last time. And as we can see from the fact that they tricked the DEA and somehow smuggled the fentanyl out the truck. Well, not somehow, but they swapped the truck. So the truck that got busted by the DEA wasn't even a truck with the fentanyl in it. But Rue didn't know that. And she didn't know that there were so many other things that could happen, that could change the circumstances of what was going on. And that just shows you like the fragility of life, how everything that you do is futile. I'm trying so hard not to cry on camera, but I genuinely have been thinking, a couple of times a day, I have been thinking about Euphoria, like since I saw that episode. And I think it genuinely shifted something in me. I'm gonna miss Euphoria. I think Euphoria season 3 ended off so beautiful. I was really touched by the ending. I do wish that like some things were like explored. Like what was the point of doing all that exploration if the series was gonna end here anyway? I understand why they didn't kind of flesh out some of the characters more than they did. However, I did want to speak off like kind of another like theory type thing. I wanted to talk briefly about Bishop's character, and I wanted to talk about why he might have done what he did. What I mean by why he done what he did, I feel like a lot of people wonder why Bishop would take the bullets out of Alamo's gun. And I feel like in order to understand this, we have to go back to a scene earlier in, I feel like it was season 3, episode 4. I might be mistaken. It might be more like 5 or 6. There's a scene where we see Alamo have this giant like ball python or some shit in the like hallway in this like glass tank of the strip club. You know, Bishop kind of like rolls up on Rue while she's looking at it, and he's like, hey, do you know the story of how this snake got here? She's like, no, but like that's a big boy. Bishop goes on to tell Rue a story about how it belonged to one of the former girls, and how there was a former girl at the strip club who this snake belonged to, and she did everything with it. She danced on stage with it, she slept with it, all of that. It stopped eating. You know, for a while she kind of tried different stuff, but then at a point it came to where the snake had to go to the vet. Takes the snake to the vet, and the snake's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with your snake. Snake's just sizing you up to eat you. And so I think that a lot of people, when he was telling this story, they thought that this was Bishop hinting to Rue that like, hey, like I kind of know that you're working with the DEA. I'm onto your game. But I think that this was Bishop telling Rue that, I think that this was more so Bishop knowing that Rue wasn't all the way with some of the stuff that she was experiencing, of expressing that he feels the same way and that he is the snake. He's with Alamo every night. He does his bidding. He does whatever he's told, but he knows like one day when he gets the opportunity, he wants to take Alamo out. And I think that that opportunity came when Ali walked through them doors with that sawed-off shotgun shooting people's dicks off. Personally, he was trusted and he knew that he was going to be the one to deploy the gun. And he saw the way that that man basically used Maddie as a human fucking shield. And he realized that nobody is safe. Women, children, the women you claim you want to have children with, the men around. Once you see somebody like claim that they want to marry and have children in a picket fence life with someone and then immediately use them as a human shield 5 minutes later, I think that that will say something to you about the loyalty that you should have towards that person. Bishop, if he hadn't fully realized it before, he definitely realized at that moment that, oh, this nigga's crazy and I can't work underneath him for too much longer, especially if I'm having these intrusive thoughts of traitorism. I'm having traitorous thoughts. I'm getting sick of doing this man's bidding. Bishop is the type of man, apparently he likes animals. He ends up with like a fluffy Pomeranian in the last episode. So like, apparently he likes animals and y'all made him kill this lady's beloved bird. He gonna do it because he a stone cold killer and he got them 2 dreads in the back and you know, niggas with the fro and the 2 dreads in the back, they killers. You ever see a man with a fully shaped afro and 2 to 3 dreadlocks in the back? To be honest, if he even got one, to be honest, a rat tail to me, that's a dangerous black man. Like fucking Aaron from Grownish. That man wasn't right in the head. That's why he had that little quiver in the back. Also, it is said that apparently there is a scene that they cut out from Ali. There is a scene cut out from Ali's backstory where apparently they made this make even more sense. I don't know how true this is. I kind of just saw it in passing. I try not to consume too much media on a subject when I'm like supposed to be filming a video on it, but I saw something that basically said that there was supposed to be a scene that connects Ali to Bishop because Bishop had a brother who was an addict who was mentored by Ali and ended up committing harm to himself during COVID time. Ali comes into the strip club. Bishop recognizes him from the funeral or something. And like, I also kind of think that's why they kind of were like exchanging those looks at the end. I do think that if that's true and that was like what was going to connect it and make that whole thing make sense, they definitely should have included that. Cut it out to make it more consumable for people who weren't going to understand this anyway. They weren't going to understand like the nuance of this situation anyway. So it's like you could have just left the additional like detail in there for the people who are going to look. You could have just left it in there for me. Because me, like, personally, a detail like that one, I would have been in tears right now talking about. I can't want an individual to put everything that I want in their piece of art. And I think that's something that we have to understand as people who are just, like, consuming this media. Like, that's a message that I wanted to spread if I thought that that was important. I could just make my own piece of media where I talk about that. And I think that's what a lot of you people don't realize is that you guys want to sit and, like, judge other people's artwork so bad. Get in the booth. Get in the booth. I challenge you. If you have so many opinions about Euphoria, I challenge you. Make me a 20-minute short film right now that's going to make me cry the way I was just crying 15 minutes ago about the death of Rue Bennett. You can't do it. You do a freaking 3-season show over the course of 10 years with only 26 episodes that had the societal and emotional impact on my generation the way that Euphoria did. You can't. You can't. You can't. Euphoria Sundays were just different. It has to be acknowledged. And again, I'm challenging myself on whether I believe in separating the art from the artist because I'm getting like conflicted like opinions internally about that. But I do feel like sometimes when the piece of media is as big as a public service announcement about the leading cause of accidental death in America and people from 18 to 45, when it's about children and very, very young adults who are making decisions that they can't even fully comprehend the dangers of because they aren't educated on it because this thing is so stigmatized. When it comes to breaking down that barrier and the ability to do that, I will always acknowledge that Sam Levinson did that. I will always acknowledge that he made a beautiful and captivating show. And even though the first 2 seasons and the last season have completely different vibes, I think the ability to maintain that storyline and flesh it out and make it to be something important after the somewhat negative impact that season 1 of Euphoria had, it was it was great, and I will applaud that man for that. I will not applaud him for anything else. I don't know much about him, but I heard he's not a good guy, okay? I heard he's not a good man. And he made Sydney Sweeney do a lot of weird fetish shit. He had a lot of weird fetish content that was dribbled in. I feel like we could have cut, like, maybe a couple minutes of Cassie Zilla and put that scene with fucking Alamo and Bishop's brother in, but maybe that's just me.